Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
I'm having trouble getting kind of zeroed in on where I would want to take things today. I have been listening back to, or have recently listened back to, some of my previous sessions with James, and the last time I spoke with him, and many times, these little cluster of parts that want to steer me away from issues that surround my relationship with my mom and history with my mom always pop up. Mm-hmm. And the last time I worked with him, there was that part showing up, and at that time, it was okay, well, I feel like that part is willing to stand down in a lot of ways that it wasn't before.
You're noticing some shifts or some loosening there.
Yeah, one of the things that it said was all right, well then, how many sessions, will it take for this all to be resolved? Sure. And of course, neither he or I has any clue as to how much it would take. But I felt like that part really faded into the background at that time and through that session for the most part. And I would call it kind of a cluster of parts that there's one part that just says I'm tired of this. It's boring. Everything. Why does everything go back to the same place? Mm-hmm. And then there's a part that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. Then there's a part that jumps up and wants to highlight the comparison between who she was then and who she is now, which is definitely not the same. Mm-hmm. But I feel as though all of the little group of guards around that content, it feels as though that kind of dam has broken, if you will, as far as just the vigilance of those parts wanting to jump up and steer me in a different direction.
Right.
So while I was listening to those sessions, I was it's time. It's time to get after this. But at this moment, I don't really have anything that's coming up specifically in that area of my life.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be helpful when we don't have a supercharged recent example. And that could be a good time to check in with some of the mom defenders, some of the parts that have been really vigilant and active around that in the past. It sounds like they have been open to negotiation with you recently, which is wonderful and shows a lot of trust. But I think, it's always great to check back in and see how they do feel about that. And yeah, how does that sound to you?
That sounds good.
Great. And if you'd like, we could start with a minute or two of meditation.
Yeah, that would be good.
Great. How many minutes would you like?
Let's do 2. It takes me the whole first minute just to get my mind to.
Same. I got it. Yeah. I'll set 2 minutes on the clock and talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. I was about 2.
Okay.
And happy to sprinkle in little moments like that at any time.
Okay.
Yeah. How's that feeling?
It's feeling good. There's, it feels just kind of like a soup in there when I was trying to just meditate, but a lot of this, content around this whole realm of things was kind of like bubbling up and
yeah, it's very understandable. What were some of the things, some of the thoughts or sensations that you were noticing?
Kind of some of my least palatable feelings towards my mom, like the sort of there's part that doesn't want it to be spoken.
Yeah, let's acknowledge that part and just maybe take a moment to check in with that and see if it wants to share any concerns around sharing, and also reassure it that nothing has to be shared with me.
There's this is hard to put into words. There's like a part that sees, because my mom often, I would say, the overarching vibe in my family was that she had the power in a way, but not. She also does not like. There's a piece of it where I see her like weakness and fear and such as that playing itself out as what looked like strength, or just force, or I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe an effort to gain that power, like to be into control.
Yeah, it's like yeah, she she had power only inside of our home. Like,
right.
But her, like, a lot of my feelings around her is like, she is extremely fearful of the world and tried to teach me to be fearful of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't work, really. I mean, there are things I'm fearful of for sure.
Yeah.
But what she tried to instill, like this distrust and fear and feeling of being unsafe out in the world, towards the world. It did not stick, but there's an anger at her for trying to do that. There is a disgust about the kind of operating system that brings that about.
Right.
There is also compassion, but it feels like the anger and the disgust and the just rejection and resentment of a fearful worldview when it is not like warranted. Feels like that lives in my body, like beneath the neck level, and the compassion strangely feels like it lives in my head. So it doesn't, the compassion is like a rational compassion.
Right.
Sense.
More cerebral. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It's like, well, XYZ about her life growing up, and
right.
But it doesn't have, like, the compassion doesn't have
that heart quality. It's more reason, logic based.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like, it's almost as though the compassion, there's not enough space for it in my actual heart, because there's all of this other, not pleasant feelings.
Sure. Yeah.
That they take up a lot of space in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hearing two parts just in that last bit there. One kind of operating below neck level, and that has more of the anger, the disgust, and I'm sure other feelings around that. And then, it does sound like almost as a counteract, the one in the head more so reasoning and bringing in logic and saying this is why we should be compassionate. Does that sound right?
Yeah, for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And as you recognize those two parts, how are the parts doing that don't want to talk about this subject? Have we heard anything from them?
I mean, they're uncomfortable, but not intervening.
Yeah. Is there a way you could make them more comfortable? Maybe hearing some of their concerns or setting up a space for them, either so that they can witness the conversation or they can be outside of it. Whatever they are comfortable with.
Well, there's one who would rather, he's not interested in being witness to it. He'd rather be doing something else.
Yeah. Yeah, let him know he is welcome to step out of the conversation. He can come back in at the end. We can check back in. He's welcome to go rest, relax, work.
Immediately took that invitation.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, the one I feel like, yeah, there's like a more fearful one that, yeah, that just wants to protect her from being spoken about in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, if it's all right, we can just acknowledge that one for a minute. Let it know we see it. We feel it. And if it would like to let us know, and maybe it has already let you know, what it is afraid would happen if you talk about your mom in these ways.
It's just like, it has a very panicked kind of vibe, and it's, it just doesn't want to entertain the notion that she was, quote, bad.
Right. Yeah, so these stories or talking about memories from the past, they might bolster that opinion.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's like, it's hard to, they're not good words for this, these feelings.
Yeah, that's
possibly
right.
Because they aren't rational. And so when you try to put them into a rational, words, it doesn't work very well. But it's like something to the effect of, if she was bad, I don't know how to say it. It's something, when I go to try to say it, it doesn't work. So I'll just, for the moment, I'll stop trying.
Yeah, and I'm curious about the part that said it's not logical or it's not reasonable.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to check in on that, and that could be part of the reason why this scared one is having a hard time getting its words across. Mm-hmm. If there's another one saying your fears are illogical.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like there's that, but there's almost just there's a aspect of this where words fail is part of it. Yes, there is. There's the part that wants what I say to be articulate and to make, quote, sense.
Yeah. Would that part be willing to give us just the inch or two of space for this conversation so that we might be able to, even if it's messily, get the feelings out as best we can and recognize that language doesn't always do that justice? How does that part that wants to be articulate feel about that?
He's now reading a book.
Wonderful.
Which seems like a good thing for someone who likes eloquence and...
Absolutely, yeah. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part can relax back. We can thank it for being willing to read a book and bolster up its vocabulary and
he's not willing
its brain. No worries. Yeah, he can chime in anytime. Just that little bit of space is all we need so that we can work just one-on-one. And see if we can turn back to the one that feels scared.
Mm-hmm.
We were hearing that it doesn't want mom to be seen as bad.
Yeah.
Are you noticing any sensations in the body as you turn towards that one or invite that one in a bit more?
Just a little throat constriction, which is hard for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would rather not speak about those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's just an uneasiness. Yeah, it's like this part, the one that couldn't seem to get the words. It is invested in she. It's a she. It's a young version of me. And it's like, if she was bad, then that means like that my life was bad. And I don't know, there's some feeling about like, I don't know. The words are something to the effect of everything was a lie, or that the sense making part is looking over like, what?
Good noticing. Yeah. That's all right. Nothing has to make sense right away. There's no pressure for that. And so far, that all makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. What I'm getting now is like, because as I was saying, she wielded power in our family. And there's some feeling of like, again, it doesn't make it's not, but with her being like, it's something like, none of the words match, but it's like none of them are like, that's it. But it's like, if she was wrong, then our whole family was wrong.
Sure. Yeah, she's steering the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if she's quote unquote bad, then all of this is kind of a lie. And then it was all bad.
Something to the effect of, that none of us had any power. Again, doesn't make sense to my mind, to my language part, but.
Yeah, and is that all right?
Yeah.
With you?
It makes it hard to get out because I'm trying to communicate with you and none of the words feel appropriate. None of them feel like they fit just right.
Yeah. And sometimes we got to say a lot of words that don't quite fit right before
even
the picture comes together. Yeah.
It's like the part is cognizant of not being able to not being able to communicate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for this part. It's saying that these are things that it usually doesn't want to talk about, and it feels scared to talk about. And also it being a younger part. It might not have all the tools that you have now, right? To express yourself, to understand what you're feeling. So we can definitely hold compassion for that. And let it know that we understand this is a hard thing for it to talk about. And as you check in with it in that way, how are you feeling towards this part, this younger one?
I feel open and interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can let it know that. And let it know that there's no pressure. And that we would like to understand as much as it would like for you to understand. You're hearing some of its main concerns about, going towards parts like the anger and the disgust, going towards parts like the one that feels anything negative or quote unquote negative towards how things were.
Mm-hmm.
That if we go towards that, then this part fears that it's all gonna fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else it wants to show you around that? Let it know you feel open. I'm curious.
There's some strange notion. Again, it's the sense making part is like, what is this gobbledygook? But it's like in some weird way to fully acknowledge how poorly she was navigating being my mom. And there's a part that wants to bust in and say, we've acknowledged this a bunch of times. But for this part to look at that or to allow that to become real to it makes this part feel as though we will never finish. There's this investment in being done with that part of the healing. And it's if we do that, it's almost like you feel like you're being buried with work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it would rather, what would it rather do?
It doesn't have another alternative. It's just a lot of times when I get into contact with parts, they kind of just, I see them just frantically running around, melting down, but yeah, like she doesn't have a suggestion for what else to do. She's just like, just don't do that.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I think that the inexpressible nature of these feelings is part of why it's not just like these other parts that want to make sense are interfering. It's like she's afraid of the feelings because they don't make sense necessarily her either.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so to fully look at them.
It's like you're being given an opportunity to express something, but what she has to express is just a mess of, stuff that doesn't make sense to her either.
Yeah. Yeah, that she feels kind of fearful of, that she feels like if we open this up, it's never going to end.
It's like if we open this up, it's never going to end. There's something around like the recognition of this figure that felt so powerful. Like if we fully look at how incredibly powerless she was over herself, my mom. It just, I don't know. I guess there's a part of it that feels I don't know how to put it into words again, but it's like,
that's okay.
And it's not like I had a choice whether she had power over me, but the fact that she did have power over me feels like an insult of some sort. Like, I don't know how to say it in a different way.
Yeah.
That is as good as
I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And apologies if I misspeak on any of this, and please correct me at any point. But how I understand that is, if this person who was put in charge of us, who had kind of by default power over you in some ways, if she was actually, as parts can see in her, very powerless in her own life, then what does that say? What does that say about you, about us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense why this part would not want to go there, not want to look at or talk about the things that might bring that powerlessness that your mom was maybe struggling with in her own life, would not want to bring that to the forefront because it reflects badly upon you. And it kind of crumbles a lot of the structure.
Yeah. And when you're saying that, it's helping me to understand a little bit better. Somehow the sentiment is something like, it's like, let's just stay mad at her.
Yeah.
Let's just stay mad let's not let the compassion get into our guts.
Yeah.
Because somehow that's more heartbreaking.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like
that's probably, yeah.
Like connecting to a lineage of powerlessness instead of, I don't know. Yeah, that's the best I can do.
I think that's great. Yeah. Yeah, I would rather, it's easier, although it's not pleasant, it is easier to just stay angry, not dig it all up, not try to bring that compassion into the heart, try to understand it, just leave it be, because we don't want to unearth a whole lineage of powerlessness.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Why it would be wanting to protect you from that.
Yeah, because it's like, if you just stay mad, then it's only just like your own heartbreak that you're holding.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go further than that, then you have to like hold hers too. And hers goes back and back and back. You know,
Yeah.
so then it's like, it feels heavier than the anger.
Yeah.
And the disgust and the, you know, the rejection of who she was in whatever moment is heavy, but it's not as heavy as all the rest would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And as it shares that with you, does that make sense to you now? Can you see why that would be really scary to go towards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just noticing how you're feeling, understanding this part a little bit more.
It just showed me like, as soon as you said that, it was like, oh, fuck. And then it showed me like itself, the parts self completely like flattened out, like it had been steamrollered.
Wow. Yeah.
Like on a cartoon, if you got run over by something and you're just flat, it's like, it's saying something like, this will be too much, like to open to that much stuff.
Right. Yeah. And is it okay for it to show you in that almost comical way or in a cartoon-like way, this really serious fear that it has? Is that a good way for it to share that with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's showing me another one now. It's like this huge wrecking ball. And the part is kind of riding it. The wrecking ball like collides with her, and then she's just on it as it swings back and forth. And she's like,
at the whim of this wrecking ball.
This is what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this part might be a part that I've met with James before. This part that just carries some of my anger. I know there's something beyond that. She shows up like in a young teens kind of part of my history, but I feel like there's some smaller dolls inside of her, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
And I've allowed this part to express its anger and like in the inner world in a big way. And it has changed the way that I am outwardly towards my mom. But I think there are littler ones that she kind of fears for their safety if we go too far past just like she's like, yeah, it's cool, like we cannot be angry externally. That's fine, we can do that, but there's something more precious that she still feels vigilant about.
Yeah. Yeah. And in this kind of cocooning that you mentioned, and possibly an outer layer being this more teenage, angry, is that similar to what you were describing earlier below the neck level as that sort of anger and disgust towards mom?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, like the feeling below the neck being that sort of anger and disgust at your mom. Does that feel like the same teen part that you're describing now?
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't aware of that at that moment.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. And so that's sort of an outer layer, and it makes sense. That might be the one that said things like, if we just stay mad, then it's only your heartbreak that you have to hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then inside of that, there's something more precious.
That's what I said, is that she's like, it's cool to, she's saying kind of to the effect, she's not saying, but I'm sensing.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to sort out these feelings from my part of life. But she feels it's more dangerous to go
anywhere beyond that. Yeah.
Like she feels it's more dangerous to expose the younger parts of me, some of which have truly been healed, like through my work with James and elsewhere. But something that is inside of her or behind her, my experience of my system has been kind of Russian doll-esque.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Where it's like a protector opens up, and then the inside of them is an exile, as opposed to like them being kind of separate or anything. I mean, obviously we're all one person, but
right. Yeah. No, that analogy makes a lot of sense to me in my system as well. And I think recognizing, even if it's just in a felt sense, that there are complexities, nuances, and layers to parts of us.
So yeah, this part is like, she's kind of mad about the notion of having to like more directly experience the heartbreaking aspects of who our mom is.
Yeah. Yeah, because as we've established, it's not, this part doesn't see a way of doing that without taking it all on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can let it know that we really understand that. And we wouldn't want it to have to take all of that on.
Yeah, because she's had to do a lot already.
Exactly. Yeah.
I apologize. I really have to go to the restroom really quick, and I don't think
you're
I
totally
can
fine.
anymore.
Yeah, definitely do that so that you're comfortable. Let's take a few minute break and hop back on when you're ready.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you said something. I would definitely not want you to be uncomfortable or distracted with the physical sensations that, it's hard enough to stay focused sometimes in this work. So I think definitely let's make you as comfortable as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so as we're understanding the very real and valid reasons that this teenage part wants to keep things at a certain level, as far as the excavating, as far as the understanding or looking at the mom stuff.
Just like, it's okay to stay mad, and I've improved on not leaking out.
Yeah.
Like, what more do you want from me?
Totally. And is there a natural response that feels right from you in that?
The natural response is you can, same as what I told her when I first met her, is like, you can stay mad forever if you want. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But also avoiding or denying any other feeling or part just means more work for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Can she see that?
Her eyebrow, like one of her eyebrows raised. I'm like, is that so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, she likes the idea of less work, because when I met her, the overwhelming feeling was like she was exhausted and
Understandably. Yeah.
just, worn out.
Yeah. And how's she doing now?
She's interested in the fact that she is allowed to stay angry.
Yeah.
She's like, because I think that her notion is that ultimately the goal is to dismantle her anger.
Mm-hmm.
And that she's cool with the evolution of not punishing the person that now stands before us in the real world.
Yeah.
My current mother.
Yeah.
But she is rather content with the idea of continuing to be angry at the person that had power for us.
Yeah. And she's interested in the notion that you just presented to her, that that's okay.
Yeah, she likes that.
Yeah. Good. Let her know we mean that. There's actually a lot of really important things that get processed in anger.
Yeah.
That get expressed.
Yeah.
And it's really important and valid. And you mentioned that one of the last times you saw her, she was really exhausted, really tired.
Yeah, the one time I encountered her, she just went to sleep.
Yeah.
once she was finally able to be with me, she just went to sleep.
Wanted to rest.
Yeah. And then I reconnected with her, and I witnessed her in her anger and some of the things she was angry about from her moment. And I always had a sense that there were in that session, there were 3 doors in this dark place where she was.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, it was clear there was a baby in there, which I believe is the same one that James and I subsequently worked with.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this character that I call Scribbles that I have an okay connection with. And there was a 3rd door, and I don't know who was in there. But it was my understanding that those that she protected were inside those rooms.
Yeah.
So I don't remember why I started saying all this, but
yeah, no, that's good. We're just checking in on her exhaustion, and that makes sense that she's reminding you of what a big job she has. 3 doors, 3 different parts that she protects.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, and you can check this out with her and just let her know that this is optional to answer. She doesn't have to hear this or answer this, but I'm curious if that panic, the scared, doesn't want mom to be bad. If that's part of what's kind of nestled in part of what she protects, that if mom's bad, then it means this is all a lie.
When you said the part about is nestled in what she protects, it felt on point. And then I know that you were just telling me my exact words back, but none of those words made sense again.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Like, what's a lie? I don't know where that came from, but
yeah, no, that's good. That's exactly what you want to do, is just stay with those intuitive feelings coming from these parts and notice where it hits and notice where it doesn't.
While you're saying that, sometimes it's just like, I need to let you and or James speak more often, because things come when you are speaking and when I'm not trying so hard to put it out. But
makes sense.
What I intuit is that inside this angry teenager who does have every right to be angry forever if she would like.
Absolutely.
That there is a very sensitive and empathic smaller child.
Yeah.
Who has been the bunch of words come, none of them feel right. Like, who has been in the grip of, or imprisoned by, or enveloped by the sadness of her mother and beyond.
Yes. Yeah.
And the angry part is the larger doll that encases that little empath child.
Yes. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I know, finally, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, the one reading the book is like, thank you.
Right. He's looking over like, I might write that down.
Yeah. Yeah. So often we just need a little bit of patience.
Yeah.
It'll all get there.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense to me why a empathic, sensitive, sensing part that's deeply in the grip of or enveloped by sadness would need to be protected by this older teenage part that has more defenses.
Yeah.
So if it feels right, you could thank that teenager for sharing this with you. And for being willing to show more about those 3 doors and what it protects.
Yeah, I get like this. Yeah, this little kid wanted it. She wanted to be open, and experience things and let things come through. But there was this stuff that was near her was too big.
Yeah.
Too big and too dark and heavy.
Yeah.
It can't pass through.
And does that make sense to you?
To wrap itself around her.
That's right. Yeah. And how's that feeling for you to hear?
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them know that. Validate that for them. It was true that she was very empathic, very sensing to what was going on around her. And it was also very true that some of the things around her that she was sensing and picking up on were too big and too dark.
Not safe for her.
Not safe. Yeah. Yeah, so she needed that protection.
I really see the genius of the angry part.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exactly like she was saying before, too. If we just stay mad, then it's only your heartbreak.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could see what would be taken in and taken on.
Yeah.
And she stepped up to protect in the ways that she knew how.
Yeah.
Yeah. And does it make sense that she presents teenage years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a. It really does.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. There was previously in me this mistaken, I now know, notion that I didn't experience anger until then, which I now know is very, very untrue. But it felt more believable and to put that on at that point.
Yeah.
And yeah, no one. yeah, I don't know what else to say, but yeah, it feels absolutely 100%.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense why she presents that way. Totally tracks. And does she feel like you really understand her?
Oh yeah, we have a good connection.
Yeah. And if it feels right, you could ask her how old she thinks you are.
This question is very interesting in here because I know like that it's a good question, but a lot of my parts are just like, oh, come on, like you're not going to fool me with that. Like,
they think it's like
this one. They're just like, I know how old, I know how many years we've been on the planet.
Great. Yeah.
Often say.
Yeah. That could be very true.
Yeah. But when I ask her that, it's she and I, and then this little kid is standing off to the side. And she's like, I'm not going to say, my age or her age as the answer to that question. But when asked the question, she looked over at the kid,
Like, yeah, that's who she's got her eye on.
Yeah. She's like, I know you're old. Like, I'm aware.
Sure, she knows your age, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I have similar reactions from a lot of my parts as well. That me telling them that I am such and such years old, sometimes it doesn't. Yes, they can recognize it, but sometimes they're like, whatever. I still have my eyes on this very little one. That is very real and is in my care and in my responsibility, and that's what I'm focused on. So good for you for being such and such years old.
Yeah, just like, okay. I mean, I've had parts that are just like, yeah, well, you act like you're 12. But
sure, exactly. So, yeah. So sometimes it doesn't, it doesn't really register to them in the ways that maybe we mean it, right? So when I ask that question, I would like to invite the teenager to see the resources that you have available to you now.
Yeah.
Because she might not be able to see all of them. And it's really just an invitation for her to see the richness and the nuance of your life now.
Yeah, it feels lightening.
Yeah.
In there when you say that, and when I, kind of, I do like a Vanna White sort of move.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. Look at this. Yeah. And that's not to put any expectation or to rush her anywhere or to rush anybody anywhere, but really just to say, hey, look, this is all available.
Now I'm just seeing the little kid is crying.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when we show these protectors more of us, more of our lives now, it's natural for them to soften back a little bit and show more of the exile. You can just acknowledge. Would it feel okay to acknowledge that sad little kid?
Yeah.
Let it know you see it.
Yeah, I'm standing next to her now.
Yeah.
I had to suppress the rush in, snatch up the kid and make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Very understandable.
So yeah, I'm there with her.
Yeah. It feels right just to invite that teenage part and the little one to feel that openness and that love from you. Appreciation for both of them.
Yeah, the teenage one just kind of gives a nod, like she knows I accept her.
Great.
The little one looks confused.
Yeah. Might be very new for the little one.
Yeah.
Probably very used to dealing with the teenager for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you could thank the teenager for allowing you to be with the little one in this way, allowing the two of you to see each other.
Yeah. Yeah, this little kid just needed like she needed an adult that was capable of having a relaxed body or face or voice.
Yeah. Well, she's very empathic. She picks up on all of that.
Yeah, she cannot and could not ever be relaxed.
Right. Yeah. And is that because she was picking up on the environment and the energies around her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a sense that, like I said, what was there was too big to pass through her. Mm-hmm. So she just had to be tense so that it couldn't begin to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of develop this armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let her know that makes a lot of sense, and that's very, very smart. Probably felt very necessary.
Yeah, she had a really, a really hard time with it, even though she wasn't allowing it in. It was just like
still there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that wouldn't have been her first choice to
no.
Put up that armor.
No.
Yeah.
No, she was here to be wiggly and interact with the world. And that wasn't on the table because of what she had to keep at bay that didn't belong to her.
Yeah. Yeah. So she had to sort of repress those wiggly, open abilities that she had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because otherwise my mom's stuff would, flatten her, like in the previous image.
Right. Yeah. And how does she...
bigger than her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how does she like being with you now and having someone with a relaxed body to listen to her and to hear her story a little bit?
She likes it very much. And as you were saying that, I felt this. It's like she likes it very much that I'm there with her, but she's afraid to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, I feel safe, but outside of where she is, it doesn't.
Yeah. And what feels natural to say to her in response to that?
What feels natural to say is like that there are other possibilities for her where I would also be there. That she doesn't have to necessarily interact with parts of the external world that feel scary to her.
Right.
But that that doesn't limit what kind of place she can reside in internally. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Does it make sense to her?
Yeah, because as soon as I said that, it was like it was like she and I, the image of us stayed the same, but the background behind us turned into a garden.
Nice. Yeah.
Instead of this dark, cold room.
Yeah. Yeah. She has options within the safety of being with you.
Yeah.
She has lots of options.
She then, as you were saying that, you know, like when you're holding a kid and they all of a sudden don't want you to be holding them anymore. And they're like, I got to get down.
Yeah. Wait, I'm feeling adventurous.
Just like inspecting bugs and stuff.
Right. And how's that for you?
It's great.
Yeah.
She's very curious.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let her know that that's great. What she's doing.
Yeah. She's like, you know, showing me stuff like, oh, look at this, look at that. And
yeah.
Look at this ladybug. Look at this rock.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
she's
is that
happy there.
Awesome. And is that a place that she would feel safe in until you were able to come back to her and work with her a bit more?
Yeah, I think so.
You can let her know that if she has any requests of you, she's more than allowed to share them.
Okay. Right now, it feels like she's just really stoked to where she is. And she's like, I think she's kind of like, kind of not shooing me away, but just like, I'm good for now.
That's wonderful. Yeah. She feels safe.
Yeah.
She's happy with this for now.
And would it feel part two? Teenager part is like sitting on a bench nearby. She seems pleased too.
Nice. You one step ahead. I was just going to say, we could invite the teenager and see what she thinks about this little one. You know, she's been in charge of taking care of this one for a really long time, and she still has that job. So we want to check in with her and see what she thinks about this.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, this is better. This is better than the place where we were before.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, and as they're there, getting settled, could ask the teenager if she has any other requests for you.
As you're saying that, I see her laying down on the bench again to go to sleep. She's like, cool. She needs
absolutely
rest.
Yeah. Yeah. You're here to support and help her with her job. She's got a really big role.
Yeah. Yeah, this feels like a good spot to wrap it up, I guess. Yeah. Seems good.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can thank the other protectors that gave us the space needed in order to go to these parts. There was the one that didn't want any part of this conversation and happily stepped off.
Yeah.
Thank him. If it feels right, you can invite that one. You can invite the one that logic and reason wants things to make sense. Invite them in just to see the work that you've done and see how they're doing, how they're taking that all in.
Yeah, they seem pleased.
Great.
The first one had ridden away on a motorcycle, so he just drove back by and waved.
Nice.
And the one reading the book is like, this makes sense too.
Wonderful. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We really appreciate the space that they gave us today. And let them know that they're equally important.
Yeah. The one with the book is like, I could read this book to her if she wanted me to.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does the little one think about that? Would it like a story or two?
Later, she says.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Really beautiful job, Theresa.
Thank you. Same.
Thank you. All right. Any questions for me or any thoughts you'd like to share?
No, other than gratitude and kudos. Appreciate it, and you did great.
Thank you.
Did it?
Yeah, happy to share the time and the space with you. It's been really nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I will follow up with a recording of the call if that's something you'd like.
I am a very big re-listener, so yes, that would be wonderful.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Same to you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.